Dalit boy on the mic, representing counterculture.
Do you write poetry?
Yeah, I've been writing poems for the last 2-3 years, and the poems that I write usually revolves around the themes of caste and untouchability, segregation, violence, and discrimination in higher education institutions of the marginalized sections, mostly coming from the Dalit background.
So, is that a foreground of your rap?
Yeah,
rapping?
caste is the foreground of my rap. That is where that's the central theme of my rap. So everything around caste, be it the anti-caste discourse, the inspirations of anti-caste movements, or else the kind of exploitation, subjugation, and violence related to caste. That is my central theme of all the songs and poems that I write.
Okay, you are a student of JNU.
Yeah.
Where do you place inside the JNU, or where do you place yourself, inside the JNU or outside the JNU?
Inside JNU, for a very long time, although I was part of the JNU campus as a student, but I was not part of I could not place myself as a part of the political culture of the JNU campus because of various reasons, because of the kind of discourse that happens within campus, which is most of the time meta-narratives, which is big questions like nation, nationalism, and who is nationalist, who is anti-nationalist. These are always big themes, global imperialism,
Yeah.
and WTO, things, the talks is always around that for a very long time, which I could not grasp. It was only after I met and interacted with Ambedkarite and Anti-Caste activists within the campus, I realized that there are deeper questions, which are far more pertinent and detailed, like and very relevant at that point of time. Like, let's say, for example, the question of representation, the question of reducing the percentage in Viva Voce in JNU campus, or let's say making the campus more accessible for the marginalized students, or recruitment of faculties coming from the OBC sections or the SC sections, which has not been fulfilled. The question of fellowship for students, because that's the means of survival for students coming from marginalized backgrounds. These are questions, and at a larger, at a pan-India level, there are other questions like land reforms or caste census, or electoral reforms. These are certain bigger questions that we always that I felt are very close and should be spoken out, and that is where I found myself comfortable in, and I placed myself in that discourse, which also I think Ambedkar did. When the question is about the question is about nation, he said that the untouchables come first to me.
Yeah.
Only after that nation. So for me also it's the same. I mean, at the most, the first question that comes to my mind is how to make campuses more affordable and more accessible to marginalized students, rather than the bigger meta-narrative question of global imperialism or national nationalism. That does not mean to say that I don't care about those things. I do, but for me, life is very specific with specific circumstances, so I look at specific questions rather than these meta-narratives. Yeah.
Okay. You can you tell me a bit about you being a Babsa leader in JNU?
Yeah, so Babsa started in 2014 after efforts of a few students who decided, few Dalit students who decided from Maharashtra, from Orissa, Uttar Pradesh. They decided that look, till now we have been just a cultural platform in campus, that is UDSF, United Dalit Student Forum. But they decided, look, it's not just that, we also have to make ourselves, make our presence be felt at the electoral level, because that is only then I think people would listen to you. Otherwise, culture, you do cultural activities, people love it. Like, okay, you do culture, just do that. But at the end, you come and choose whom to vote. And we know that right is not something close to us. Right is a polar opposite. So at the end, they're like, okay, with all the differences that you have, come and vote for left. So that is when the question of autonomy came. I mean, why can't we fight our own elections with our own agendas and be a force in the campus? And so that's when Babsa started. And after looking at Babsa for almost 2 years and looking at how they worked, the questions that they raised, how they changed the political culture of campus, where you see before students coming from very elite colleges like Yadavpur, St. Joseph's, St. Stephen's, LSI, or colleges like different colleges from Kerala where people come there and they are part of the protest spaces. But that's when it changed, when BAPSA formed. I mean, blue flags came in for the first time, Jai Bhim slogan came in for the first time. Jai Bhim was almost like a stigma in campus. Everybody you give slogan, they like, what is happening 2-3 years back, but now everybody says Jai Bhim Lal Salam. So certain things that were part of the discourse, and now everybody have to mention certain slogans like Manubad, Jativad, and names of slogans, Jai Birsa, Jai Phule. Certain these things and icons, names of these icons, photos of these icons, were just became the part of the campus culture. Otherwise, I mean, and now we say Hul Johar, and Jai Bhim and Hul Johar is a slogan that we usually give. It has become part of everyone. At times I feel like I forget to give it, but the left people give it already, like Jai Bhim, Hul Johar, all this. It's not to say that they shouldn't give, but I say like how BAPSA has changed the discourse in campus. And I'll give an example when every April 14 they used to celebrate Ambedkar's Jayanti, Ambedkar's birth anniversary, by doing Ambedkar Gandhi play conversation, which as if Ambedkar did not exist independently of Gandhi. But when we started huge celebration, march, cultural event, all of that of Ambedkar alone. So these things happen. That is where I felt that although in the beginning there was a lot of antagonism. First they didn't recognize you, then they antagonized you, and then they try to appropriate you. And when they cannot appropriate you, they try to normalize it. Like, okay, look, you are Jai Bhim, you are also Jai Bhim. You speak about Dalits, okay, we are also speaking about Dalits. You say that we have problem in representation. Look, we have our president is a Dalit. So it went towards that, which is the usual thing, to absorb the marginalized autonomy. So I think what BAPSA did was it created autonomous campus student politics, and that was not just a result of BAPSA alone. It was a result of the years of politics that ASA has done in HU and other Ambedkar student groups have done in different places. It kind of gave some confidence in building a BAPSA. And I think what BAPSA also has done is the presence outside. Like today I go and rap in different places and I represent BAPSA's politics, the ideology, the concepts that I have in mind is formed through BAPSA. That's BAPSA's contribution towards me, and like Rahul does that, Bhupali does that, Manju too does that. So it's not just limited to campus. I mean, we also go to different spaces where we're telling that, look, in our own capacities, in a limited capacity, we're saying that, look, this is the politics you should be doing. So I think it's also going beyond campus and people look up to it.
And now if we look around, there is for few years we had been seeing violent kind of attacks even in the forms of legislative moves by the RSS-led government to undermine the basic values and principles of Constitution. So it's high time to defend the Constitution and fight for it, especially when 10% economic reservation is given to Savarnas who are already rich, privileged, land owning and all. So how do you look at this political environment where we are all supposed to be with the ideas of Ambedkar and the principles of Indian Constitution?
I think I feel strongly that this could have been done better, because I strongly feel the previous governments have the kind of mistakes that they have done has produced a situation like this. So I don't believe in the narrative that Indian fascism came after Modi. It's not that. Before that also, be the question of OBC reservation or fulfilling faculties, faculty implementation in higher authorities, in higher education institutions, or let's say even representation in judiciary. None of these spaces have been democratized, and since none of these spaces have been democratized, and it's only a section of people representing that, I think the decisions are also bound to reflect some of these representations that is happening, because it's not ability in space. And I think not only economical reservation, but be it the question of dilution of SC status, or 30-point roster system that came in, which will reduce the number of seats for SC to OBC sections, and all of these, all of these are results of failures of a strong opposition in the country, which could have given a mandate of saying that, look, we are against this.
Yeah.
And apart from one or two party here and there, you most of the times see that people, even parties across ideologies almost agreeing to what BJP is saying. Economic reservation, like, okay, we're agreeing to it. Apart from the 3 Muslim minorities, most of them are like, okay, fine, we're fine with it. So when you're not clear about your ideology, and just to please the Savarnas, just to please the Savarnas, who are such a less percentage of voters, although there's no data. The question of reservation is always about representation, and representation is always about community based. It's not about individual based. For poverty kind of alleviation or to uplift the poor, there's always schemes by the government. It's not through reservation, right? Then what's the point of giving reservation to others? It's a fundamental violation of constitution. And who are protesting against it? It's not the political parties. It's the common masses. When I say common masses, I would like to say mostly those who are affected. And recently I've been seeing mostly Dalits who came up writing on social media, doing protests here and there, just like they did for state resolution of Anti-Caste Act. So I think in that way, there's need to be, like I would always say, there's a need to be a broader solidarity, but that broader solidarity should be on the terms and conditions of what the Muslims think and what they want. It cannot just be on the basis of like, look, BJP is there, we have to defeat, so let's be there. So that, because today they are knocking at your door, so you feel the threat, so you're like, okay, we want to be together. But it doesn't work that way. You have to be standing there with us with our questions, very specific questions. And what you do with it, that matters. And I think if that is done, there's a way out. And media, civil societies, NGOs, academicians, artists, all of this, and especially from the Savarna sections. How do they take it? Because they have all these institutions.
They own these institutions.
Make use of all these institutions depends on how we are going to defend the values and principles of Constitution in the coming 1 year.
So, I feel more that the caste annihilation is not just the responsibility or just the burden over the classes, caste groups and communities which are oppressed by the Savarnas. I think Savarnas also are equally responsible for annihilation of caste. What do you think?
Yeah, of course, caste is not a Dalit problem. Caste is not a OBC problem. Caste is not all of this. Caste is always mutual, because there is oppressor, there is oppressed. Because the oppressor perpetuates caste and practices caste in different ways. That's why there is oppressed who is at the receiving end of it. The oppressor is just at the receiving end of caste. So the responsibility falls more on the oppressor.
Yeah.
Also, and it's not a change. It's not a change of heart thing. It's not just that feel good thing. Like you change your heart, behave well with me. Your intentions are good. You're a nice person, so there does not exist any more caste because you behave with me properly. It's not about that, right? It's about deprivation of land, resources, spaces in higher educational institutions, of dominance in social-cultural institutions, then violence of a deep, layered thing like untouchability, segregation. How do you tackle all of that? I think that's where the Savarnas should take more responsibility on their part as to how can they start talking against caste? How can they be anti-caste in their own groups and own spheres? How they can create small associations and groups to speak against caste and to write against caste, which means a lot of inconvenience, discomforts, and it might cost a lot even for them. But how do they do it? Because we have been doing, there are thousands of organizations which is anti-caste. We've been doing everything. But at the end, as long as the oppressor exists, the oppressed will exist. So.
True. Then, you were part of this Madhubhumi Literature Festival. For 2-3 sessions you were there. So almost all those sessions were regarding representation, right? So there is when the session was closing, the stage manager moderator was saying, okay, the session for Dalits is over now. How do you look at these festivals, literature festivals?
Well, I don't have much hope for this literature festival. It's just that, I was given an opportunity for the first time, and I thought I should convey a message in these big platforms, wherever these platforms might be. That's why I decided to come, and I didn't realize that sentence that point of time, but later when I thought about it, I was like, okay, so it's a box, diversity box. Here Dalit things are let them go. Now we'll talk about environment, belonging, and art and culture and all of this, and that's a universal thing, because we are universal. Brahmins are always universe. I am the universe. Brahman means I am the universe. Like the person the other day said, you should be universe. That's what Veda says. So you are universe, and I am particular. My universe is a particular universe. Your universe is the whole universe. So that's why they always say, look, this is for Dalits, and the other thing is, environment is only for us. Art is only for us. Culture is only for us. But when it's writing is writing from Dalits. So I think which is a very narrow imagination of how this spaces works, this literary spaces works, and they have always been. And like Yogesh Maitre said, we need to democratize this space, and only if the marginalized sections come into these spaces in large numbers, only then democratization can happen. Otherwise, if not, then marginalized should have their own literary festivals, autonomous literary festival, which will pose a challenge, a threat to this kind of literary space. But for that, it takes time, because we don't have enough resources to build an autonomous literary space. It will take some time.
You had been performing in other countries as well.
Yeah.
So you are taking out the question of caste out of the country, and you are communicating with a larger audience. So within the country and outside the country, you are traveling with your songs. So how do you think how much helpful or effective this art would be in your fight for social justice?
I think more than art as a medium, more than art as a form, to say, it's art as a medium which kind of gives you some kind of recognition. And at this point in time, I realized that I have the privilege where rapping, because I'm the first Dalit English rapper, that's always bound to capture some kind of attention, because no one from my community has done this before. So since it's bound to capture some attention, it is also bound to give some recognition, which I got. And through, it's a journey again, it's not very mechanical, it's a journey, and things worked out. So that's why I got invited to France and Mauritius again. I'll be going to France and New York in the coming days. And there I got my audience, some journalists from Europe, some writers, poets and academicians from Europe. I got my audience, and I conveyed them the message not only through rap but also through presentation and all of this. Now I can I can regulate how I want to convey. I rap, but also at the same time I did presentations, which they came to know about caste. They were shocked, like, okay, we're knowing it for the first time, nobody has told us all of this, and I was like, okay, maybe because you don't invite Dalits, that's why you don't know. You always invite high caste people, that's why you don't know about all of this. And I think it's very important to have international solidarity, especially for marginalized sections, because that's what Brahmins do. They have diaspora all across the world, and recently this smart Brahminical patriarchy thing. I mean, Brahmin is such a small minority community, but they could pressure the Twitter CEO to just apologize, which cannot happen with any other community. But when you have this global solidarity, this global power, it's something else. I think I strongly believe that there needs to be something like that. And that's why you see, the question of Kashmir, the question of Palestine just does not become global for the sake of it. They have people, there's a small diaspora from Kashmir, there's a small diaspora from Palestine who have worked towards making the question a global one, a big one, you know. Otherwise, there are many small countries who might be questioning for self-determination. Let's say even within India, the Northeast, Gorkhaland, but that does not become an international question most of the time. But Kashmir question becomes, and which is of course it should become the question of Kashmir. But there's a reason behind it. So that's a task to become a global question. We need to go out as much as possible in the academics, in the art spaces, you know, this field. And for me, I think this is just opportunity, a step towards that long journey, which I don't know when it will happen.
Yeah, Dalit boy on the mic, representing counterculture, hip hop from the ground. Yeah, yeah, hip hop from the ground.